Hello, I'm Catherine Poulin-Filion from Sectoral Asset Management. I've been with the firm for 7 years now. I'm principal on a team focused on medtech investments. And what I look for is late-stage medtech investments, so where we can have an exit over 2 to 4 years, disruptive technologies, great teams, and great products that solve a unmet need in the market.
Thank you all for joining. Chase Garfield, Senior Analyst with KCK Medtech. We are a single-family evergreen fund that invests specifically in therapeutic devices and technologies, anything from first-in-human clinical stage and later.
Great. Thanks for having us, guys, and we're excited to hear all the pitches. Tiago Menezes from YAYA Capital, investment manager at the firm. We do later stage investments in medical devices, therapeutics, and diagnostic tools. We're very focused on business development and in Latin America. So if you're early stage commercial and want to expand into other regions, we're the key partners there.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Gokce. I work for YAYA Capital, which is the corporate venture capital arm of Verfam. We're based in Barcelona, but we invest globally. Our sweet spot is Series A, but we invest from seed to B, and we are strategically investing in diagnostic startups.
All right, first company.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Ron Davidson, and I'm the CEO of Trisol Medical. Very nice to meet you. Trisol Medical is developing a transcatheter tricuspid valve replacement. We have a team of over 20 employees. We're based in the northern part of Israel. Vast experience in development and bringing to market of structural heart devices. Our valve is very unique. It's probably the only valve that was initially intended for the tricuspid position. We have many advantages in our valve, such as the fact that we are reducing the leak, but in the same time preserving and improving the right ventricle function. We have many other advantages, such as we cover large sizes of valves that is not covered by others, and we have very low prevalence of adverse events. So far, we have implanted our valve in 27 human, 18 of them in the US early feasibility study. The results are very, very good, both in safety level and efficacy level. So we are very happy by our results. Our next steps is to complete our EFS study and get approval for a pivotal study both in the US and in Europe. And then complete the pivotal study, and after that go into sales. Okay, thank you very much.
So the first thought that comes to mind, well, first of all, I did like the pitch. I like it was very concise. I like the fact that you've mentioned that your device was designed for tricuspid, because oftentimes in mitral you do see some designs that get translated into tricuspid. So this is a differentiating factor. The area that I would have liked to hear a little bit more is on what needs to be done from a clinical perspective. You kind of went at it on a very high level, but number of patients, let's say on the feasibility study and in the pivotal, would have been helpful.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's very succinct pitch, very clear and easy to understand. I think to echo the comments made earlier, the specifics around the pivotal design would be helpful for me to understand, as well as the kind of fundraising time horizon here. What does the next fundraise look like? And assuming the pivotal goes well, what's the fundraise after that?
Yeah, if I may add to my colleagues, I think it would be interesting as well to understand in the trial what are the endpoints that you're focusing on. Of course, it might be a bit obvious for some investors, it's more specialized, but especially when you're talking to broader investors or more generalistic investors, showcasing, oh, these are the endpoints we're after and these are the endpoints we had compared to standard of care would be really helpful too.
Well, I would join as well. I would like to hear a little bit more about fundraising, and as well as the detail of the clinical study and the endpoints and what you found in the end. But overall, like for the time frame, I think it covers most of the important things.
Thank you. All right, company number 2. And investors, this time around and for future companies, it's a little more spicy. Would you take that follow-on meeting or not?
Well, yes, I do have a follow-on meeting scheduled.
Amazing. All right, second company.
Thanks for the invitation to get out of the comfort zone. I need more of that in my life. I'm Valentin, co-founder and CEO of Custom Search. I founded a company with 2 very close friends. Arvin's a trauma surgeon and associate professor at Harvard. Thomas is a biomedical engineer who has brought multiple implant systems to the market, and I've worked in MedTech BD for 17 years. And we decided to tackle complex bone fractures. So the status quo of complex fracture care is that the surgeon doesn't know the problem before he cuts the patient open. And we can run a number of AI and biomedical engineering and image processing steps on the CT scan and push the best possible surgical plan to the surgeon's smartphone. And our clinical data indicates we can really double the primary outcome stability after the fracture, which is the most important endpoint right after the surgery. And we can also cut surgical time by about 30%. We have a really amazing advisory board with the best global key opinion leaders, thanks to the affiliation and network of my co-founder and medical director. We're currently raising a Series A. We just got FDA clearance. We're getting CE marking early next year. We have first revenues, first signed contracts with major implant manufacturers. We need 12 million for market entry. I'm closing half of that with most of the existing investors by the end of the year. So if you have 1 to 3 million to spare, this is your last chance to get on my cap table.
Right. I can start, maybe. Thank you very much for the pitch. Being second is always easier than being first, I guess, after the first feedbacks. So in my review, I think it covers everything very well. Like you also mentioned about the background. From my side, because I have a strategic lens as well, like we invest in diagnostics, it wouldn't be something for me to, because it's more in the...
You declined my meeting request, which is fair.
Yeah. But overall, I think it was a very good pitch.
Thank you.
I love the energy. I think that's really, really key as well. Sometimes we forget about that in medtech. But potentially hearing more about the unique selling proposition, where your unique solution in that space would be also really nice.
Thanks. I completely agree on the energy. Very inviting to me to want to learn more when you're high energy. I would have loved to hear more about the business model and how you plan to get paid. Something I see a lot in these types of kind of more software-based solutions is I'm not quite sure how you integrate into the hospital.
Yeah, and well, I like that you tied your software to direct clinical impact. So that's the first part. The one aspect that I always worry about with software is IP. It's very difficult to get meaningful IP in that space. So if you have anything there, that's a real key differentiator.
We do, but yeah. Thanks a lot. I appreciate the feedback. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Company number 3.
Thank you. And thank you all for the opportunity to meet you. I'm Colby Holtzhaus. I'm the CEO of May Health. We have a technology that is intended to help women who have PCOS ovulate so that they can conceive children at home. We are a clinical stage company. We've completed feasibility work here in Europe as well as in the US. And right now we have a US RCT underway. We're enrolling 150 patients. We've treated 44. So we're well on our way. And that's ahead of a PMA submission coming towards the end of next year. In the meantime, in Europe, we have a CE mark also underway. We're a class 2B here in Europe, and they have accepted our feasibility data. So we have an opportunity to start commercialization much earlier here in Europe. So we're looking at planning a pilot launch here as well. I actually joined the company relatively recently, about 6 months ago. This is my third women's health startup. The first one landed with Labry. The second one, we sold to Organon, Alydia Health, several years ago for $240 million. And I spent the last 3 years at Organon looking at women's health landscape, looking at what was out there. And when the opportunity came up at May Health, I was personally really excited about it because of the opportunity to build on the clinical research that exists, as well as the precedent technology, which is a laparoscopic approach, is really well proven, combined with the opportunity to start in the fertility space where there's really strong economics, well into cash pay. In the US, particularly 70% of the fertility market is cash pay, which gives us a really strong runway. as well as the really wonderful team and investors that I'm joining. So we're came out of the MD Start Sofinova program, and then also backed by Trilla Impact and BPI France. So we are raising an extension on our Series B. We're looking for about $10 million, and we would love to have you join us.
Well, that was a really great pitch.
Thank you.
Very complete. And in terms of, let's say, our mandate, it may still be a little bit early. It may still fit, though. So I do have follow-up questions, and it'd be mostly on your primary endpoint and how does that translate, into market outcomes afterwards.
Yeah, I agree on the translating the study into marketability. I think great pitch. I really loved the way that you not only sold the company, but also sold your commitment to the company. I think that goes a long way for us as investors wanting to make an investment as we make investments in people, and your passion shows a lot. I would take a follow-up meeting.
Great. Thank you for the pitch. It was really, really nice to hear. And also echoing on the energy and then your involvement with the company. That's super important. I would say that once again, the uniqueness of the proposition, I think it's really important to understand. So I'm particularly not very used to this market, so I'm not familiar how crowded it is, what are the current solutions, what is the unique proposition in this case, and what is the standard of care. So it would be really great to have that on your pitch as well. Thank you.
I also like the pitch. Thank you very much. What I liked here also, you mentioned about your background and your experience, and I think it also stands out here as an impact-wise. And like what I would mention a little bit more is like how it impacts the women's health. That would be good to hear a little bit more in the impact side. But overall, it was a good pitch.
All right, next company. Hello.
Hello, my name is Thor. I'm a second-time founder and medical doctor, and I'm here with the company North Star Medical. We started 1.5 years ago, early stage, and we're within trying to tackle the opioid crisis. One of the outcomes of better pain management is conversion to same-day surgery. So let me explain a little bit. Two of my co-founders, medical doctors, anesthesiologists, they had a big issue, treating pain. What can you do? You can use opioids post-surgically. But there's also nerve blocks. Nerve blocks is like going to the dentist, getting your injection, you don't feel anything for a few hours, and then you feel a lot. If you could extend this, then you could have very good pain management, so good that people could get home much faster if pain was the primary thing keeping them at the hospital. There are catheter solutions, like the epidural. You can go specific, for example here, target the entire arm and cover the pain and shut off the nerve. The problem with the catheters is it requires a lot of skill, and after spending maybe half an hour inserting a catheter, it dislocates, migrates, stops working. The best of the best, they can hack it and make it work, but the rest of us, we can't. When you go to a rural hospital, this is not a possibility, even though it's a great opioid-sparing alternative. So we solved those two issues. One, a rapid insertion device, at least 5 times as fast. You click a button and you insert a catheter. It's IP protected, inserting medical devices into the body one-handed. Usually with an ultrasound guided procedure, you need to put down the ultrasound probe and use 2 hands to insert the thing. The other thing is that we created tissue Velcro. It's a modification of the catheter which makes it stick like a gentle hold at the location where you want it to stay. With these two barriers overcome, you can insert a catheter much faster and pain and make it reliable. So right now, we started 1.5 years ago, and we're going first in human with amputation patients in a few months. We are raising our seed early next year on the back of these initial clinical data. We're Danish-based, and we would love to talk.
I'm happy to start here. I think you did an excellent job speaking to what the problem is today, how it's currently solved in a underwhelming fashion, and how you are coming along to fix that problem. I think you're a little too early stage for my firm, but definitely interested to watch your story.
Yeah, I would echo that. I think it's really an incompetency pitch. You talk about the problem, the solution. Maybe just one last thing during the ask. So you said you're using a seed. We don't know how much, or sometimes it's good to have that glimpse. But yeah, same, echoing that. You're not on our mandate, but I would definitely take the pitch otherwise.
Okay, I'm a medical doctor by training as well, and I worked around 3 years with opioid patients. So I know how big is the unmet medical need here. So it rings a lot of bell, and you define the unmet medical need very well here. So in that case, I think that was a good background story to understand everyone. From our side, because we invest in diagnostics, that would be out of our strategic scope. But overall, it was a good pitch.
Thank you.
I would add one constructive feedback. I would highlight which indication you're going after first, or in the first 10, 15 seconds. Pain is a very large market, and there's different ways to tackle it. So for us to know which is your patient, your beachhead market, initially, we can start thinking about what questions we want to ask, the strategy, and also just having that earlier in the pitch would be helpful.
Good point. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Raman, and I'm a registered dietitian as well as a mother representing the Biosport. The Biosport is a platform that helps athletes use personalization, genomics, and AI to reach their full potential. One of the biggest issues that athletes have is they tend to get injured, which leads to a loss of opportunity as well as a shortening of their career. What if they were able to find out about their injury risk, or if we could focus on prevention, understand what their real genomics is based on their sports? So by using the Biosport, we've created a platform to help athletes understand their risks of cardiac arrest, their risk of injury, how they can focus on prevention, as well as guide them that if they were injured, how would they focus on capacity as well as gaining traction. It's a huge market. We're looking at about a $6 trillion market coming up in 2033, which can look at other things such as consumables, such as apparel, nutrition, as well as, orthotics, etc., based on their individual needs. We are asking for $5 million to help scale up and look at global partnerships. Our product is ready to go, and we're looking to launch here in November or December. So, if we're wanting to get our athletes to get to that higher potential, we need to focus on personalization and customization. Right now, programs are too generic. They're simple, and they're not really focused on the individual. The Biosport not only applies to athletes, but it can be used for amateur kids who are getting into the world of sports, military, police, any academia that is actually using their bodies or their fitness for their work. Thank you.
Roman, congrats on the pitch. I think it was really good. And the energy as well is matching. One interesting thing you could potentially add to it, towards the end, you mentioned the current programs. So that's one of the key points I think should be added to the pitch. It's really understanding the dynamics currently and how your solution is uniquely positioned. Because otherwise we understand the problem really well, the solution, how much you're raising, why you're raising. Just a glimpse into current solutions in the market and technologies.
I'll go second on that one. So very good pitch. I would have liked to hear more about the actual measurable clinical impact on these patients. And sometimes in prevention, it's very difficult to do. But if you're pitching to a medtech investor, that's going to be one of the first questions that they'll spend time on. I would say for our fund, we really focus on what I call therapeutic medtech. So that would be less part of our core strategy, but I could see this being, a great opportunity for a fund that does some direct to consumer and those type of investments.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Great energy. I think for me, business model would have been very helpful to hear a little more specifically on how you plan to monetize this, whether it's cash pay by consumers or if you think that there's a possibility to have this reimbursed.
Yeah, I also like the energy and like how you pitched us. I would like to hear a little bit more about the team and the business model as well. But overall, it was a good one. Thank you.
All right, you're up next.
Good afternoon. I think the bar has been pretty high so far. So I'm Corentin, co-founder and CEO of Quantilite. We are a German spin-off developing a platform for frequent blood testing. So frequent blood testing is a problem that concerns 20 million patients worldwide, and it's rising to 40 million in 2030. And while 70% of clinical decisions are driven by diagnostics, it remains centralized, slow, and costly. So at Quantilite, we want to democratize diagnostics, make it a commodity, and we're by that bringing the lab at home and basically making blood testing for patients, chronic patients, as easy as walking their dog. And how do we do that? With a small platform where they can test their blood. We turn results from days into 15 minutes. Patient can test from home, from work, or from like the hospital, just 15 minutes, and then they can continue their life and receive recommendation from the physician afterwards. We already received the first pre-seed €1 million grant, and with it validated the unmet clinical need on the first indication, which is organ transplantation, as well as early reimbursement codes. And in parallel, validated the tech through a small clinical study with lay users at home. Our tech is, we've been working on it for the last 10 years, covered by 3 granted patents, 7 different sensors for different analytes across 4 different families. So we can multiplex, we can adapt to different matrices, and we are versatile and scalable. So we'll start in organ transplantation, and so 2027 in the lab and 2028 at home. And this way, we selected this because so strong unmet clinical need, and it's also a very trending thing that we've seen this morning with Organox. We want to monetize through razor blade business model, having early reimbursement, high margin. So thanks to low COGS. And right now we are raising €8 million for seeds for product development, validation, as well as regulatory in Europe and being FDA ready. And we are 2 founders from the lab with seasoned advisors across key functions. And so I'd be happy if you can help us to bring patients, payers, and providers new diagnostics for the future. Thank you.
So I really like that you frame the business model, because the first question I have with pretty much any diagnostic that is not a procedural diagnostic is who's going to pay for it. So you answered that question right in the first few minutes. So that's definitely a strong positive.
I agree. Appreciate that you framed that early. I would have liked to hear a little bit more about the device specifically. Is it you can draw the blood better? Is it better use of the diagnostic tools? I wasn't quite sure what exactly what it is.
Yeah, I would say same aspect of it would be what's the technology about, and specifically the endpoints you're after and the technologies you're trying to replace or solutions you're trying to replace in a way, I think was the thing that was lacking. But overall, it was a very complete pitch. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for the pitch. This is definitely in our scope. So therefore, I think you also covered a lot of things that, as I mentioned. But that would be a little bit more about hearing more about technology would be also good, yeah.
Well, happy to detail that in the follow-up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we can take 2 more. Could you please raise your hand if you're interested in pitching? All right, 1, 2.
Hi, I'm George Kramer. I'm the founder and CEO of Neocore. We're the developer of the co-op valve, which is a transcatheter mitral valve. Right now, going through your head is that's a really crowded space. And we're still early stage, but we're unlike any transcatheter valve that you've seen. I guarantee that. Our delivery size is 8.5 French sheath versus 35 to 40 French for most of the devices. So we don't have the complications associated with that. We don't have a stented frame. If you look at all those other valves, they're basically a stented frame with a bioprosthetic valve sewn in the middle of it, more or less, all of them. We've got an electrospun polymer. The device opens up like an umbrella, drops on the mitral annulus. The electrospun polymer drops down between the native leaflets, so it works in cooperation with the leaflets. It doesn't disrupt the normal mitral apparatus, so you still have that important connection between the annulus and the ventricle. Additionally, it's, as I said, a very small profile. You can deploy it very quickly. The anchor catheters go in first, then the valve portion, and then that gets locked into position, and then you're out. So we've done that within 18 minutes. That's the quickest we've deployed it in a pig heart. So as I said, we're early stage. We're looking for starting our round A, our Series A round. We've raised $3.3 million in our seed round, and that's where we're at. I hope you're interested in the concept.
So for our mandate, it would be like too early. The key question I would have is durability of effect longer term, and also you've mentioned 18 minutes of deployment. That's probably in your absolute best, doctor.
That was me, and that was the best I ever did.
Right. Oh, well, congratulations. And I'd just be curious to see if 15, 20 surgeons use this, how will that time change?
Yeah, I agree. I think you did a great job of laying out the clinical value proposition, the differentiators of the technology. You read my mind. Why is it different? You did a great job explaining. I think for me, understanding the roadmap for the company going forward, what does the first clinical trial look like? What does the pivotal trial look like? Would have been helpful.
Yeah, I follow the same rational path. I think what's lacking towards the end is understanding why you're raising what you're. I mean, it's kind of obvious, but how much you're raising and for each specific steps, that would be really, really nice. But overall, great pitch. I think you laid out the problem, why your solution is different, why it's tackling an issue that we currently have in this crowded market, and how you're tackling that. So, congrats.
Okay, thank you.
Well, as my colleagues mentioned, you defined the clinical need very well. So in that case, I think that was very clear. Because it's early stage, of course, maybe we wanted to hear a little bit about your future plans in the business, or like how do you map yourself in the later stages? But overall, that was a good pitch. Thank you.
So would that mean a second pitch or to take a second meeting?
That's slightly out of our scope, unfortunately. But overall, the clinical need part, I liked it.
All right, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Hi there, thanks. I am the Interim Chief Medical Officer for YAYA Capital, and what I wanted to present to you is that there's a really big problem at the moment that most people aren't aware of, and that's that in every surgery, 19 errors are made on average. And it's because at the moment, surgery is in a pre-digital era. So surgeons don't have any assistance in their decision-making or recognition. So it's a little bit like asking pilots to navigate and fly without any kind of assistance at all and just looking out the window. That's essentially what the situation we're in surgery at the moment. So the solution that we've got is this AI, which takes any video feed and it will recognize any structure and highlight it so that it's much more obvious to the surgeon and reduce the risk of complications. So we're going to cut errors and therefore cut complications. And by doing that, we can potentially cut complication rates by 90%. So that's our solution. We've already got approvals in Japan in terms of regulatory approvals. So it's already being sold. We're revenue generating in Japan. And so it's my job to get this rolled out across the globe. So it's the market opportunity is around 5 billion in total. And if we even only penetrate 2.5% of that in about 3 to 5 years after our regulatory approvals come through in the next 2 years, then we'll have revenue of 100 million a year within 3 to 5 years. So we're looking for a Series A raise. We've already raised 25 million in the past, and we're looking for another 20 million. And that will hopefully get us through these regulatory approvals to the next value inflection points. So yeah, that's a general idea.
So you mentioned it. You cut the complication rate 90%.
Well, that's the hope. I mean, so if you look at the complication rates that were cut by pilot assistance tech, which is very similar to what we're doing. So in pilot assistance tech, they're just stopping pilots from crashing into things. And so what we're doing is stopping surgeons from crashing their knife into things. And so if we could cut it by 90% in that tech, it's essentially the equivalent tech.
Yeah, great. I think there are two questions maybe and follow-up. One would be to understand specifically with surgeons, how do you approach it? Because we know surgeons are quite complicated with dealing technology that's going to prevent them or change the way that they do things. So that's what we want to understand maybe in deeper detail in the pitch.
Absolutely.
And another one is the business model. Who's going to pay the bill at the end of the day? It's always in the health tech sector a bit nebulous. So it's great to have that on the page already.
Business model, he stole it from me. That's where I would have started. You said revenue generating in Japan. How much, tell us, let us know. And if it's early, say, hey, it's this, but it's early. I thought interesting tech. I'd love to understand what clinical value and clinical studies you're building up to prove that you're going to be justifying the healthcare spend on the technology.
Makes sense.
My biggest concern is integration into existing workflows. How do you bring that into, how do you get a hospital to say yes to bring this? Because there's also liability component. Well, I guess it's helping. But I think it may be difficult to get hospitals to say yes. So any arguments you would have for this in a second meeting, that'd be very helpful.
Yeah, I'd love to answer these questions, but I can't right now. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Can I get a round of applause for our pitching companies and our investors? Thank you.